The Monkey's Paw is one of those classic horror stories that almost everyone has heard of, at least in passing. It's so foundational, so ingrained in our culture, that its basic premise, "be careful what you wish for," has become a cliché. But what I absolutely love about the original story by W. Jacobs is how normal it all feels at the start. There's no grand, ominous opening, no haunted castle or ancient curse laid out on a dusty scroll. There's no warning that anything bad is about to happen. It just drops you into a regular evening with a regular family, in their cozy little living room, and lets everything go completely, horribly wrong from there. This slow burn dread, the idea that horror can seep into the most mundane corners of our lives, is what makes it timeless. The story opens on a cold, wet night. Inside the White family home, Mr. and Mrs. White and their grown son Herbert are enjoying a quiet evening. Mr. White and Herbert are playing chess by the fire. It's a scene of domestic comfort, warmth, and safety. This is a family that loves each other, a family that jokes around. They're just killing time, waiting for a guest to arrive. That guest is Sergeant Major Morris, an old friend of Mr. White's who has just returned from serving in India. When he arrives, he's a worldly, weathered figure, full of stories about strange and distant lands. And he brings with him a peculiar souvenir, a shriveled, dried, hairy monkey's paw. It's a grotesque little thing, but at first it seems like just another curiosity from his travels. But then Morris tells them its story. He explains that the paw was enchanted by an old fakir, a holy man, who wanted to teach the world a lesson about fate. The fakir believed that fate ruled people's lives, and that those who tried to interfere with it would only bring sorrow upon themselves. The paw, he says, has the power to grant 3 wishes to 3 different men. As he's telling the story, his tone becomes serious, even grim. He reveals that he is the second owner, and he's clearly haunted by his own experience with it. He won't even say what his 3 wishes were, but his demeanor makes it clear they didn't bring him happiness. He even admits that the first man who owned the paw used his 3rd and final wish to wish for death. Now, any sensible person hearing this would probably want nothing to do with it. Maurice himself is so disturbed by the paw that he throws it into the fireplace. But Mr. White, perhaps out of a mix of curiosity and a bit of greed, quickly snatches it out of the flames. He doesn't quite believe the story, but he's intrigued. Morris warns him again, telling him to throw it away, to get rid of it, but the temptation is too strong. After Morris leaves, the family sits around, half joking about what they should wish for. Herbert, in a light-hearted moment, suggests wishing for £200 to make the final mortgage payment on their house. It seems like such a small, sensible wish. It's not for immense wealth or power. It's just enough to make their lives a little easier. So, feeling a bit foolish, Mr. White holds the paw and makes the wish. He claims the paw twisted in his hand like a snake, but his wife and son just laugh it off. The night ends, and nothing happens. It seems the whole thing was just a tall tale. The next morning, the sun is shining, and the eerie atmosphere of the previous night has completely vanished. The family laughs about their fears, and the monkey's paw seems like a silly joke. Herbert heads off to his job at a local factory, Moore and Megan's. Everything feels normal again. Life goes on. The day passes uneventfully, but then, later in the afternoon, a well-dressed stranger arrives at their door. He looks nervous and hesitant. He's a representative from the factory. He breaks the news to Mr. and Mrs. White in the most sterile corporate way possible. There was an accident. Herbert was caught in the machinery and was killed. The news is devastating, a complete shattering of their world. But then comes the final soul-crushing blow. The man explains that the company, while denying any liability, wishes to express its sympathy with a sum of money. The amount they are offering as compensation is exactly £200. This is the moment where the story fully clicks into place with chilling precision. The wish came true. But the paw didn't magically create money out of thin air. It didn't make a lottery ticket win or an inheritance appear. It simply rearranged reality in the most cruelly efficient way possible to deliver the exact amount requested. It took their son's life and turned it into cash. The horror isn't just that the wish came true, but how it came true. It followed the path of least resistance, a path of cold, brutal logic that completely disregarded human emotion and love. Weeks pass, and the house is shrouded in grief. The warmth is gone, replaced by a heavy, silent despair. Mr. and Mrs. White are broken. One night, an idea, a desperate, terrible idea, takes hold of Mrs. White. She remembers the paw. They still have 2 wishes left. Frantic with grief, she begs her husband to use the second wish to bring Herbert back. Mr. White is horrified. He remembers the state his son's body was in after the factory accident. He tries to reason with her, to make her understand what they would be bringing back. But she is inconsolable. Her grief is so powerful that it overrides all reason, all fear. She just wants her boy back, no matter the cost. Reluctantly, broken down by her pleas, Mr. White retrieves the paw and makes the second wish. I wish my son alive again. They wait. Silence. Nothing happens. The wish seems to have failed, and they are left alone with their renewed, and now even more painful grief. But then, a little while later, they hear it, a quiet knock at the front door. At first, it's gentle, almost timid. Mrs. White, ecstatic, believes it's Herbert. She rushes to the door, fumbling with the lock in her excitement. But Mr. White freezes in absolute terror. The sound of that knocking fills him with a dread far worse than anything he has ever known. He understands something his wife, in her grief-stricken hope, refuses to see. Their house is a good distance from the cemetery. Herbert has been buried for over a week. He didn't die peacefully, his body was mangled and mutilated by the machinery. Whatever is standing on the other side of that door, whatever has been reanimated and has slowly, horribly, made its way to their home, is not going to be the son they remember. It will be a broken, mangled thing, a monstrous parody of their child. As his wife struggles to unbolt the door, the knocking becomes louder, more demanding, more urgent. It's a frantic, horrifying sound. In a desperate panic, Mr. White scrambles to find the monkey's paw. He knows he has to stop her. He has to use the third and final wish. Just as his wife finally slides the last bolt back, he finds the paw and screams out his final wish. The knocking stops instantly. A sudden, profound silence falls over the house. His wife throws the door open, her cry of expectation turning into a wail of disappointment. The road outside is empty. There's nothing there but a deserted street under the cold, pale moonlight. And that's the true horror of the monkey's paw. The story isn't really about a resurrected corpse or a magical curse. The monster isn't the thing that was knocking at the door. The real horror is the devastating, unbearable price of trying to bend reality to our will, of trying to undo the inevitable. It's about the unbearable weight of grief and the terrible choices it can drive us to make. The final, empty image of that deserted road is so much more terrifying than any monster could ever be, because it represents the complete and utter void left behind when hope is extinguished by a wish gone horribly wrong. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into classic horror.